No, he's good. Gosh, he's definitely, yeah, he's definitely developing. He's got his own personality. He's beginning to push boundaries and try to relate to us on, like, when he's frustrated, or even if, like, he's frustrated with us, and then actions of that come out and things like that. So we're learning it to kind of take that more into effect. This actually reminds me of a funny little time. So what was it? Catherine's cousin, once removed. So it's like her grandmother is his aunt.
Okay.
He's a brother. He's a Benedictine brother at the St. Vincent Abbey here, or in Latrobe, which is the town over. And so we were invited by him to come by and hang out and talk and have some dinner with him. And it was kind of like a catered thing by the school that's connected with the Abbey there. And they come in, they're like, all right, so we have a dessert, and there's an option. You can either have like caramel or chocolate on there. And I was like, well, I'll have chocolate because I love chocolate.
Okay.
And Benedict, he was like, caramel. And I turned to the lady and I was like, you can get him chocolate. And he looks at me, he goes, no, I want caramel. And I was like, okay. Get him caramel then, all right. So it's nice to see him, like, have his own preferences, and when the opportunity arises, so allowing for those things to happen. But I don't care if you don't like broccoli, you get to eat broccoli. So
Exactly. And he's 3 now, right?
yeah, he'll be 4 in July.
Got it. Little three-nagers.
Yeah, basically. So
Joan's quickly approaching that, and she also is starting to get her own personality where she wants things done a certain way. We're still in the terrible twos, so it's a lot more about her own autonomy of, I'm a person, I choose. And it's like, oh, okay. So that's going to be exciting to get the three-nagers.
I've always heard other, well, I mean, to our credit, it's kind of the same thing. It's just like terrible twos, not really three. It's the terrible threes. So, but no, 4 will be interesting, and then and then before we know it, he'll be basically starting like kindergarten and stuff. So,
Oh yeah, they grew up fast.
yeah, I was kind of thinking about it. Well, actually, during Thanksgiving, I was talking to my parents, and I was like, yeah, in 15 years from now, Benedict will be 18. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And my parents were like, they just looked at me and just started nodding, going, yep. And it's like, okay. So, yeah, it goes by. I remember, growing up went by really slowly. And then you're like, wait, no, this actually goes by really fast.
Oh yeah, it's all, time is all relative. So one day for a toddler, you can count that day up. One day for us, that's just a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, and I mean, for them, it's every day is a new thing, a new thing to explore. So it always seems longer. So, alrighty. Well, Joe, I asked you here because I wanted to keep on with this short little series that we've been doing. We started with Andrew on his faith journey, and being a Catholic and a video gamer, and kind of diving into his history. Where was he at? He felt that he needed to just kind of tell us about his faith journey and his life and all that. I am not asking you to do the same thing, but if you wish to, that is perfectly fine. But yeah, are you ready for me to ask you questions about your past?
I'm ready. Grill me, boss.
All right. Well, before we do that, this is technically an episode, so I better introduce it. Welcome to Those Catholic Gamers, a podcast where Catholic guys come together to talk about video games and their Catholic faith. I am James, your host, and today I have with me Joe.
Hey guys, I'm about to be grilled.
Pray to St. Lawrence for that one. That's actually my confirmation name. So, anyway, today I am interviewing Joe. Joe has been a longtime college friend of Connor. Joe and I have met, probably 3 or 4 times in person?
Yeah, probably 3 or 4. Because there
Yeah.
was Connor's not engagement party, bachelor party, right?
So I was unable to go to that
That's
because
right.
we were, I think it was like right on the weekend of Benedict's due date.
Yeah, I was really
So
sad I didn't get to see you because we'd played a couple of games together, if I remember right, but didn't get to see you yet. And I was like, I finally get to put a face to the voice.
yeah.
But I had to wait just a couple more months.
Yeah, what was it? It was only like a month and a half because we brought Benedict to that wedding. He was about a month old. So, yeah, so we were both groomsmen in Connor's wedding. And then from there, what was it? A couple of years prior, or about 6 months to a year prior, we started gaming online with Connor together.
Yeah, I can't remember what our first game was.
I'm pretty sure it was The Forest.
Probably. We need to replay that game. I've been craving playing it. Or Sons of the Forest. I own that one, so.
Yeah, that one looks like a lot of fun. So,
I haven't played it all the way through, so there's a lot left to do.
perfect. Yeah, that would be really great to get on there. So, but yeah, so this is an opportunity for Joe and I to kind of get to know each other a little bit better by having him kind of talk about himself, his faith journey, growing up Catholic, and then also growing up with video games, as I'm pretty sure we've touched on before in previous other discussions like this. But yeah, kind of diving into that and just kind of seeing how these two interrelate in Joe's life and how he makes that balance work. Of course, you can always email us at catholicgamerspod@gmail.com. And of course, if you like this conversation, you can always listen to our other podcasts, or podcast episodes, I should say. Give us a like, subscribe, review, comment, shoot us an email. And then, of course, if you really like this interaction, definitely go to Connor's Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Fatal Condor. There you'll have Joe, Connor, and I all on. Usually Connor just kind of talking and Joe and I quipping in every now and then.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. So, but anyway. But yeah, so how was your day? I was exhausted half of the day.
I don't know why either. I was super tired as well. I mean, I went to bed a little bit late. I went to bed at 11, but there were dark circles under my eyes. I felt super tired. I needed 2 whole mugs of coffee, and I still just kind of felt tired till lunchtime.
Yeah, fair enough. What was it, last night? So I only got like 4 hours of sleep the night before. So I got, what was it? I got home from work at about 1:20 in the morning. I didn't actually fall asleep until I think 4. I got up at like 8:30 when for Sunday, and was basically up until 7:30 p.m. and I fell asleep, and then I woke up at midnight and I was like, I am awake. So I was awake for about 2 hours. So I slept until about, what was it, 8 o'clock again, 8 a.m. this morning, and then did some work, and then at 11 a.m. I was just like, I'm tired, I'm gonna go lie down, and I woke up at 2, and I'm still tired. So
That's quite an irregular sleep schedule, and that's all due to the new job, right?
it's due to a lot of things. New job, new house, still trying to work out balance and all that. So I'm I would like a different job, but this is paying the bills, so.
Yeah. And then does Catherine also have a job, or?
No, my wife is stay at home,
Oh,
and that's the plan and the goal, is for her to be a stay at home mom. We would like to try to homeschool our kids and all that jazz. So, and yeah, I mean, I've got the education and background to be able to support that. So
yeah.
I just need to find the right position, and we should be off to the races. So.
Yeah, kudos to you guys. I mean, I would absolutely love to, for either Clara or I, one of us stay home. But in this economy, no. Both
Yeah.
of us have to have a job, unfortunately.
Yeah. What we found is there's just sacrifices that we've had to make, that other people just probably would say absolutely not. So, but yeah,
Fair enough.
but yeah. So, well, Joe, this is an episode about you, not me. So we'll dive right into it here. If I remember correctly, in previous episodes, you've kind of mentioned that you kind of grew up around video gaming. But before we do that, while you live in South Dakota and have spent, it sounds like a good portion of your life in South Dakota, my understanding is you're not originally from there. Is that correct?
That is very correct.
Okay.
I actually grew up till I was 7 in Arizona. So half the Quali clan is in Arizona, half the Quali clan is in South Dakota. We actually originally immigrated to South Dakota from Norway, and that was in the 1800s. Like there's like 7 generations of Qualis that have lived in the United States. So not like we're a new homesteader family, but the old homestead actually still stands on the Quali land over in Lemon, South Dakota. So really cool to have that history. But like I said, half the Quali clan moved to Arizona. And that would be my grandparents. So we lived there for a while. Dad got his medical degree and then decided to move up to South Dakota back with the other part of the family. Because if he worked in a small town for either 5 to 10 years, the government would repay his loans for working in a small community, an in-need community. But we just kind of kept sticking around afterwards because South Dakota was really, really good to us.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. And how did that work out? Usually with those kind of loan repayment programs, they're chock full with asterisks. Did that actually work out for your dad there?
Yes, it did.
Good.
He is a PA, so he has a master's degree. And he was pretty frugal with it. He's got the GI Bill and went to Pima Community College for his undergraduate. So he's been pretty wise in how he is able to spend or pay that off. But for the most part, yeah, all worked out.
Fair
Now
enough.
he lives up in Del Rapids in a fairly nice house, so it's working out real well for him.
Yeah, no, Del Rapids is a lovely little town. So, side note, I used to be part of the homeschooling Shakespeare group, and that every summer they do a Shakespeare play down in the amphitheater in the down there. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah, so that was fun. I was the bosun in the Tempest, though. But
Very
anyway,
nice. What play? Which one?
the Tempest.
Oh, the Tempest is the play. Got it.
Yep. Yeah, I played the bosun or the boswain. So, however you pronounce that. So, all right. So you were born in Arizona and were down there for until 7, and then moved to Lemon.
Bison, South Dakota.
Bison,
We
South
actually moved terrible time of year. So, Bison, or sorry, not Bison, Arizona, super duper hot. We lived in Phoenix at the time.
Mm-hmm.
When we moved over, it was fall. So in Arizona, it was still up in the hundreds. It was kind of the later fall, and they already had, or there was brewing a whole bunch of snow. So we get there, and then like a couple weeks later, drifts that are like 5 feet tall. So we had to go to Menards or wherever, buy some emergency parkas because we weren't quite ready for that kind of cold yet.
Like literally emergency parkas, because you will die without that kind of clothing.
Exactly. If the car breaks down and you're somewhere in the middle of South Dakota, there is Yeah, and Bison's in the middle of nowhere. The joke is you go to the middle of nowhere, then you keep driving 45 miles, then you hit Bison. So if you're out of gas or your car breaks down somewhere, you're going to be dead if you don't have a parker or something to keep you warm.
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy how dangerous driving in that kind of stuff is, and how we take it for granted when we just kind of live out there. So,
oh yeah, and especially since, just gonna give some relation to the audience here. I guess to whoever would find the statistic interesting, but at one point in time, Meadow, which is just 5 miles away from Bison, was the farthest place in the United States you could be from a McDonald's back in 2013.
where was this?
Meadow, South Dakota. That is
Meadow, South Dakota.
Yep, it is. I think that would be 5 miles east of Bison. Funny enough, a town of 8 people. So at one point in time, this might be a little inappropriate, so you might have to cut it. But since my dad's the town PA, there was a chlamydia outbreak in Meadow. 4 people got it, which means that half the town's population had chlamydia at one point in time.
Oh goodness.
Not good odds.
No, and it's just yeah, it's just a comment on the it doesn't matter where you go. Human beings are human beings and are very sinful.
Uh-huh. Oh.
So, yeah, but yeah, well, well, you didn't disclose any names, so I think HIPAA is still all good here. So
exactly, you've got 1 in 50, not 1 in 50. That'd be 1 in 2 chance of guessing who it is. Technically,
yeah, you have a 50% chance. Yeah. So, alrighty. So, Joe, growing up, all of that. I guess for you, because I did a move like that when I was growing up too. Did a move from Arizona to Bison, did that affect your I wouldn't say faith, being that you were probably only 7.
yeah.
But did that really affect any way or how you interacted with like games? Did you like play more games because you moved to a new place or anything like that?
Kind of. So being in a small town is really hard for me to play any new games, right? Because like being in Phoenix, Arizona, we'd go to, I don't remember where it was, but it was kind of like it was a video game bookstore that looked like a castle. Very vague memories because I was 7 years old or younger. But they had like discounted Game Boy games because at that point the Game Boy Advance had come out. So like for 50 cents or $1, I could pick up these Game Boy games and play them. So I could play more new to me, games where in Bison, South Dakota, I didn't really have that as a luxury. I had to play through a game in its entirety and keep playing it, and then wait till my birthday or Christmas to get something new.
Mm.
So I would say it definitely affected it in that way, and then kind of a little bit as well as what games I played. Because in Arizona, I had a friend, his name was Bobby, next door neighbor. We played a whole bunch of his games, which he had like, would that be a PlayStation? Because he had Crash Bandicoot and a couple other games, a couple of racing games. And so when I was at his house, that's what I played. Now moving to Bison, I had a really close friend who played Pokemon, so I was already kind of a Poke nerd, but she really helped me fully gravitate towards Pokemon and kind of kindled that love.
Fair enough. So yeah, it's kind of interesting how our gaming hobby changes, especially during moves, but also like with the different people we interact with, because that will kind of introduce us to different games, or to different different games, or different even like genres that we wouldn't play otherwise, I find.
Oh yeah. Or definitely like sometimes even enhance your love for a game, because in college, college roommate, he was really into Pokemon and I was too. I played it, put so many hours into the games, but since I didn't really have anybody to play with, it felt so surface level looking back because he was a competitive gamer. So he taught me about the nitty gritty, deep parts of the game that I didn't even realize. So definitely moving or being with new people in those new circles really helps. That faith, or not faith, sorry, just the community around games is really awesome.
Fair enough. And then, well, going or speaking of faith, how or describe to me your faith life growing up. Was some of us grew up in very Catholic homes where you walk in and it's almost smells and bells right off the bat, or others are just kind of like culturally Catholic. Where do you kind of fall into line here?
I definitely think I fall, in my mind, what feels like the middle. I'm sure from the outside, my house probably felt very Catholic. Because we definitely had Bible crosses on every single wall in every single room. But my dad was a cradle-born Catholic, so for him, he's a really good man. I feel like he kind of takes his faith for granted, though. Like, it's implanted in his morality and who he is as a person. But in terms of showing that faith, he's a lot more of a show don't tell. So what he does is Catholic, but he's not going to go out in the streets and be like, "Hey, go be Catholic," or "I'm going to go to church on a regular." We went every week, but I'm not going to go every single day to daily mass. I'm not going to pray the rosary every single day. Where
Okay.
my mom used to be non-denominational, and then after she married my dad, a couple of years went by, and she converted to Catholicism, and she is very much ingrained in the faith, like reading at mass, how to sign up for door greeters, doing all the stuff in the church. And she was the one who really pushed to have a Bible and for us to do nightly readings of the Bible as well, which waxed and waned depending on how the times were, but
Sure.
that was kind of how my household was structured.
Okay. Fair enough. How much of that had an effect on you, would you say, growing up?
Definitely wax and wane. Like as a little kid, I was very much ingrained in the faith. I absolutely adored Jesus and his sacrifice for us, and it was very a part of who I was. But as I grew older, different aspects of my life, like watching, was either the Science Channel or the History Channel, just try to debunk the church constantly. And so for a time when I was 13, I think, I was agnostic, self-proclaimed as Gnostic, where it definitely was not going to last. And I honestly, that dry part of my life almost was better because it led me back to the faith in a stronger sense later on in high school. I was a lot stronger because I had seen what the darkness looked like. And I know I'm not advocating for our audience to turn away from Christ and come back. But that was definitely, it was a part of my journey, and it led me closer to God in the end. And then in college, my faith really took root when I was living at the church, doing daily masses with Father as the altar server and helping out at the church and really seeing that faith and community growing through the Newman Center. And then I guess our question was just about my childhood, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll be getting to that here shortly. So, well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of the next step in the process here. So 13, kind of agnostic, but kind of had a change of heart, kind of turning around. And then you decide to go to, what was it, Northern?
Yep, Northern University.
Okay. And what did you study at Northern?
So my dad told me that as the man of the household, I had to support my family and that I had to find some sort of a job where I could support my family. And actually had to make a lot of money. It's like, all right, what are my gifts and talents? Because his gifts and talents were healing people. It's like, all right, what do I do a lot? I talk a lot. Okay, so my gift is talking. How can I use the gift that God has given me of talking to help as many people as possible? It's like, all right, a lawyer, they talk a lot. So much Northern. I was like, all right, I'll do a double major of communications and political science with a minor in history, and then afterwards get a master's degree in law. And that didn't pan out because after half of my class, the poli sci, like, oof, I love politics, but I hate law. It just is so dry and boring. So, fortunately, I did finish the poli sci major because my professor was like, "Joe, you've got like 3 classes left. Just finish it out." And I was like, "Okay." So finish that up, but yeah, now I've just got the poli sci along with the communications.
Yeah, fair enough. And so during this, so you graduate from high school, you go to Northern. Do you immediately gravitate towards the Newman Center? Did you know what the Newman Center was, or how did you get involved with them?
Yeah, actually, really luckily, my mom, while we were touring the campus, we checked out the Newman Center before I even applied for the school, and they were super welcoming. So, um, day one, I was already signed up to be the altar server at Mass because it's that important to me and my faith to be a part of it. And also, it didn't hurt that I heard whisperings that you could eventually live at the Newman Center on your second year. And I was like, ooh, that'll be free, and I'll be right next to the church. What a win-win. Now, there's this
Yeah.
guy, Connor, who kept harassing me all the time, who was living at the church, so I couldn't avoid the guy.
Mhm.
Love you, Connor.
So, yeah, we now get to Connor, the overarching shadow of all of us here, with those Catholic gamers. So how did you meet Connor?
I had seen him around at the Newman Center, because since I was in the ultra rotation, he was too. We bumped into each other. It wasn't until, I think it was the school had a collegiate baseball match, and I wanted to make a team. I liked softball or baseball. I liked it. I knew enough to play. So like, all right, as long as I get a team of good people, I'll be absolutely fine. I get my wife Claire to join on the team. At the time she was my girl. Actually, wasn't my girlfriend. She was a girl. Got a couple of other friends of mine to join up who I'd met on the first day, and I had Connor too. The day the tournament shows up, Clara and Connor are the only 2 people who show up, and Clara's like, "Can I just go home?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Go back to your apartment or wherever, the dorms." And so Connor and I don't think we were able to play, but I think we just hung out in the park nearby. Since he was the only one who showed up, I was like, "Hey, thanks so much, man. It means a lot to me." And he's like, "Oh, wanna go play some games?" And then we played games and we were friends.
Yeah, that's usually how he gets you. Yeah, just kind of like, hey, you want to play some video games?
Yeah.
So
It's also his devotion, though. Like, I mean, he was one of the like he said he was gonna come, and he came. He's a what would you call that? Not devoted. Someone who's not determined. I think it's a D word. Um, but if he makes a promise, he'll follow through on it, and that is a good character trait.
that it is. That it is. Um, so you have this going on. He starts getting you, or you start engaging with him in some video games. How did gaming with Connor change your gaming hobby at all?
Um, so I had already played online games with a bunch of friends and stuff before that, so I didn't really change that aspect of it. What really changed with Connor initially was his competitive nature. He is super duper competitive, and I hadn't really, I didn't have any brothers or siblings who wanted to play games with me growing up. So I played a lot more solo games, or if I played games with friends, it was more the online co-op. Connor was more interested in either winning or losing ungraciously. So we played a lot more like Mario Party, Mario Kart. Smash Bros, and then we started into Steam games, and kind of we made, I guess at the time it didn't really feel like concessions, but kind of an in between was Payday 2, which thinking back on it, definitely not a good Christian game we should have been playing at the church, but it allowed him to be competitive and allow me to add on to his adaptability and we all work togetherness. So
Mm-hmm.
it worked out for the both of us.
Fair enough. Let's see here. Yeah, well, and then what was it? Your wife, meeting her. Let's dive into that. So, sounds like you kind of met her at the Newman Center.
I actually met her. It's a funny story. I guess that's what everyone's gonna say about the first time they met their wife.
That's always, that's very true. Yeah.
But funny story. We actually met. What was that called? When a whole bunch of like incoming students come before school starts to get signed up for classes. I forget what that's called. I think we called it not Coyote. It would be Wolves Days or something like that. Anyways, we're both at that, and she has foggy memories of this, and so do I. But I feel like I met her because she was the only girl with blue hair at the event, and she remembers me saying something about how, we asked her like, "Oh, why did you go to school, or why did you choose Aberdeen?" And Claire was like, "Oh, I wanted a school where I actually wasn't just a number, and that sort of stuff." And I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna go to Aberdeen because I want to go to a big city." And meanwhile, Claire was coming from Minneapolis. Is like, "Oh, this country bumpkin." But the next time that we meet, we completely don't remember each other. I'm just checking out the facilities, and she is doing laundry, or having a friend was doing laundry, something where we both met in the laundry room. And from there, we really start hitting it off for the first week. And actually, by the end of the first week, we're dating, or not dating officially. And the question came up of, "Hey, are we a thing?" And I just got into the college campus a week prior. Still finding out who I was, she's still finding out who she was. So we decided, no, we'll just stay really close friends, and give it some time. Semester goes by, and then we start dating.
Great, sounds great. And how did that eventually lead into? Well, how did that affect? That's probably a better question. How did that affect your gaming hobby?
Honestly, Claire was really good for games because she wasn't much of a gamer before that. Like, she was enough of a gamer where like she was more the Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, Nintendogs. Those were her jam. So we, had some overlap on games, but I honestly am really glad that she appreciates games, and now we can find some games we play together. Because back in high school, wasn't too long, I had a girlfriend who absolutely hated and despised video games. So I was like, I'll change myself. I'll be a better person and not play games because she likes country kids. So little Joe decided, little Joe, I was a high schooler, but got the big old belt buckle, drank Mountain Dew, cast aside video games, and tried to learn about tractors. That relationship did not last long at all.
Yeah, you really can't change yourself for somebody else in that sense. Like, we always try to be better. At least, we should try to be better for our wives. But that doesn't mean that we try to radically change areas of our personality. Like, hey, I enjoy a video game. Now, if you're playing video games all the time, maybe you should dial it back. But, if you're a nerd, there are women out there who will embrace it, or who are just nerds like you too. So,
especially nowadays, I'm really glad that, because it felt like back in the day, it may not just feel, there was a taboo on women playing games for the longest time, and I'm really glad that's gone away, and there's a lot more the diversity of games has grown to such a wide margin where it's like, back in the day, would a game like Stardew Valley had done really well? Probably not. That's why I'm glad that nowadays there's just that wide collection where, if you're not a gamer, you just haven't found the right game yet.
Yep. Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, I mean, I would also argue that there are definitely people out there who just don't enjoy that. The idea of sitting down to a game, like those, like I would say probably super extroverted people, where it's just
True.
like a video game is just they need to be around others. I can grant them that, but yeah. So with that, you get married to this gal. Connor is involved in your life. How does your faith look at that point? Getting to know this girl, Connor's getting involved. He's talking about. He's probably talking to you about joining Focus, and how does that all? Or does that affect you? How does your faith life look at this point?
My faith life was definitely, I don't want to say dwindling. I don't have as much time as in college or high school to spend, either dwelling or being a part of the faith. I'm still actively involved in the church, like after every Sunday and actually during the week too. I would meet with, I'm forgetting his name, but he was a part of the church, not the priest, but he was um heavily engaged in, because we had moved down to Vermilion. No, wait, we got married in 2019. Oh, okay, no, sorry. After we got married, we had decided to move to Minneapolis to be closer to her parents, and also I wanted to live in a bigger city, have more prospects for jobs, because at that point I decided to do PR because I decided not to go down the lawyer route, and I hated customer service.
And you had a communications poli-sci major, so you have to go PR.
Exactly. So, unfortunately, I love, one of the professors was Dr. Walks. Great guy, super intelligent. He was my communications teacher. His main message to us was that media is evil. So, delete your Facebook. These guys are spying on you. They only want your money, and they're only going to, they're basically the opium of the masses, which he's not wrong.
I was going to
But
say, he's not
unfortunately,
wrong.
but the problem is, like, if my whole job later on is going to be PR, I know nothing about Facebook. I know nothing about Instagram. I know nothing about the trends or how to do anything in these documents. So I'm floundering trying to find a job for PR because I don't have a portfolio or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I find a nice company in Minneapolis called, was it Magnus? No, Arcanium Consulting. And I was like, oh, they say they're a PR place. It'll be super great. They're offering, I think it was like $30K starting, but and they wrote this down in the email that at the very end of training, I should be making up to 75 to 110K. And I'm like, oh, that's good stuff. Sign up, show up for my first interview, and it kind of looks like a dinky rundown place, but it's fine. They had like several rounds of interviews. It should be a okay job to have. None of my red flags went off yet. First day in the job, they start just, because I got the job, and they start hammering on that pyramid schemes are not bad, that MLMs are actually really good, they're a good business model, and that's all they like are just hammering into us for 4 hours on the first day. I'm like, oh, this doesn't sit well. Tell my wife when I get home, tell her mom, because we're having to live with them while we move everything over.
Mm-hmm.
And it just does not seem good at all. So I actually do some further digging on them. It's a PR scheme. Like, these are the people who they hire, young people who are fresh out of college, and they're the ones who man the booths at like Costco or Sam's Club for like the rickety kitchen knives, or try to sell you a phone plan. They're the ones hollering and annoying people at the store.
Oh, okay.
And the up to 75K is all commission based.
Yeah,
So
it's sales. Yeah, whenever I'm looking for a job right now, and every time I see you can make up to, it's like that's commission, and I've done that, or I've not commission, but I've done sales gig. I'm okay at it. I would say I'm relatively okay at it. Hate it. Hate it
Yeah.
with every fiber of my being, and I don't know if you really could pay me enough to go back into sales.
Exactly. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. So second day, I asked some pointed questions where I'm like, all right, so I've heard a whole bunch of stuff that MLMs are really bad. And I gave some examples like, well, you know what? You're like, what does your dad do? I'm like, my dad's a doctor. And he's like, well, the whole entire not pharmaceutical, your dad, he's in an MLM too. I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, he's got nurses that work under him and he's got a boss and it all goes to the top. It's an MLM, it's a pyramid scheme. And I'm like, okay,
No,
I'm
that's
out.
not.
So I quit on the spot and then I did not look back, which means unfortunately we're living in Minneapolis without a job at our parents' house. So
Yeah, that's not a great position to be in.
no, not at all. So a couple of months trying to chase down a job was nearly impossible in the Twin Cities at that point, because we were fresh out of college and I had a lot of working experience, but for, with a finished degree, I wasn't going to accept, working at Hy-Vee again because I could be spending that time, looking for a job. So I eventually found something at a consulting agency just to get by until we found something better in Sioux Falls. And then I jumped on to work at Wells Fargo right before the pandemic, which worked great because I worked in the sales department. I was wheeling and dealing credit cards. I felt like I was actually making an impact and doing good. And then the pandemic hit and they put us into customer service because they needed extra people on the ground. And they saw that, wait, our online version of all this stuff sells just as many credit cards as our consultants. So we're just going to cut that program and keep all of you guys in the customer service world. And I was like, after 2 years of that, I was like, I'm completely burnt out. I'm out. I need to find a new profession.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess my faith during that time, we still went to Catholic Mass, even though she and her parents were still Lutheran at the time. But Claire and I still were able to go to Catholic Mass, but I wasn't involved in the church at that point in my life because it felt like we were going to a new church every couple months. So it's kind of hard to get involved into that community.
Explain that to me. Like, you were just moving around so much, or?
Yeah, because after Northern, I moved down to Vermilion to live near her because she was getting her master's degree at USD at the time because she was able to graduate a year early.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm fighting back the vomit in my mouth. So.
Oh, because of USD?
Yeah.
It's an all right college. I actually went to USD, got my master's there too.
Yeah. I went to South Dakota State, so I am contractually obligated to.
I'm so sorry for all that time you wasted there.
It was great. It was great. But yeah.
Zio moved down there. We got involved at the Newman Center in Vermilion. That was good. And then after that, we moved to her parents' house and went to a church consistently. The same one over and over, but it just wasn't the same. Because, at any point in time, we were looking for a new house. So it's like, well, why get involved in this church when we might be moving again? And then we moved to South Dakota, or back to South Dakota, moved to Sioux Falls. And luckily, we'd made a bunch of friends with, like D&D and other stuff. So we actually went to their church, which was across town. So it was a 15 to 20 minute drive over there, which without Joan, easy peasy. So we went there for about 2 years. For the first year and a half, the priest there was super fantastic. Great priest for kids. Boiled down the message really nice, was super likable by everybody. And then we got a new priest, and he was very much the old person priest, very dry. Not a bad guy, but not in our favor. And then also our friends, they also had kids and they went to a different church. So it was just us going to that church. And it was 20 minutes away when St. Michael's is literally like 2 minutes from our house.
Sure.
So we stopped going to that church, moved to, well, not moved, but moved to St. Michael's Church. And it's been really great there. I've joined the nights and I'm loving it. Oh, and at St. Lambert's, the other one that's across town, I did a youth group there for a bit. Actually, a bit. I did that for 2 years, no, 3 years. Where we did D&D, but I added a lot of faith into it, and we took out a lot. We kind of reworked the entire rule book to make it more Catholic friendly.
Okay, fair enough.
So either banning necromancy for the kids using, and if anybody uses necromancy, like that's the villains, bad guys summon skeletons and ghosts.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could. Yeah, that would make sense. So cool. What was it? You're at St. Lambert's, right?
Was at St. Lambert's, and now I'm at St. Michael's right now.
Okay, St. Michael's. So, do they still have their 4 p.m. guitar mass?
Oh, we don't go to that one. We are early birds. We go to the 8 o'clock. So
Okay,
no clue.
Okay, I remember it was like my first memory of Sioux Falls is my dad and I driving late on a Sunday evening, and he's like, "Well, we got to go to mass. Let me look it up." And he like looks up. And he's like, "Looks like St. Michael's has got a 4. We're gonna go there." And we go in, and this was at a time where I'm pretty sure I think the tabernacle should be centered now in St. Michael's.
Yeah.
Okay. This was before that. It was off on a chapel on the side. I don't think they even had a crucifix. They didn't have any Stations of the Cross. None of their chairs had kneelers. And then they started off with this really loud guitar music. And my dad and I are like, are we at a Catholic church?
Sounds very Baptist.
It was, and we finally got to the liturgy of the Eucharist, and we're like, okay, it all seems good. It's just like it's not our thing. And then, of course, they had Latin, the traditional Latin mass at the cathedral at the time, and so we went to that too, and we're like, oh, okay, this is better.
Oh, the cathedral is so pretty downtown.
Oh, that was my parish. Yeah,
Ah.
I grew up six blocks north of Cathedral when I was in Sioux Falls. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
no, they at the 8 o'clock, sometimes we have a band at the 8 o'clock, and I used to be very opposed to a band at church. It's like, no, it has to be organ music or completely choir. But
canonically, you were correct, I believe.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
typically I used to like that stuff, but it is all sorts of cute watching my daughter while they're playing in the band and the trumpets playing, which you ask me, brass instruments are perfect for a church for the choirs of angels. So good. And so Jones, because she can't understand the words yet, but she is dancing her little heart out for Jesus, and it's like, oh, Jesus would be smiling. Well, actually, Jesus probably is smiling, looking down at her, praising him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. What was it? David, going to what was the first book of Kings? David, basically ripping off his garments to dance in front of the, oh gosh, what's the word? Ark of the Covenant. That's to praise God, and what a scandalous thing that was. But yeah, so wonderful. So to wrap things up here, because actually we actually been almost talking for an hour now.
Wow.
How has your gaming hobby changed now with having a daughter, and you guys are expecting your second, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Correct. A second one. I don't know if I've told you guys, but little boys, so we'll have one of each. Our collection is all done. We've caught them all.
Yeah, now you just need multiples.
There you go. Let's see here. So gaming's changed, I'd say, for the better. Because it's funny, whenever Joan goes to spend the night at Grandpa and Grandma's or the weekend at Grandpa and Grandma's, Claire and I always reflect like, is this what life was like without a kid? Because it's way different. I definitely game less, where it's like, all right, I can only game when either she is in bed or it's during her nap time, which as she gets older, she won't need that middle of the day nap. So that's going to affect things, I'm sure, later on. But then again, I'm sure later on we can play games together. So it will just evolve over time. So I'm not too worried. And honestly, I'm glad, because I know earlier, I'd spend so much time playing games where the games that I found the most enjoyment in, or like Minecraft, 7 Days to Die, I guess The Forest a little bit. Basically any game where it's a sandbox survival game where I can plink away just hours and hours and hours doing the same task while I watch YouTube videos just to waste time. And thinking back on that, I wasted a lot of time. So having a daughter, I definitely feel like my time is being spent way more constructively than, just sitting and wasting time.
Yeah, fair enough. So, all right. Well, wonderful. Well, Joe, thank you for your time there. Hopefully you enjoyed this.
Yeah, this was, honestly, it went a lot, I don't want to say smoother than I was expecting. I was expecting more like rigorous questions on aspects of my life, but this felt more like a conversation, which is very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not like I've done this professionally before, but yeah, anyway, anything you would like to add before we close out here?
No, I'm thinking, after talking about playing games with my wife, I think after this, I might jump on and play some Stardew Valley with Clara. We're very close to finishing the community center, which I've never done before, so I'm kind of excited.
Oh, very good. Very good. It's always good. And there's more after that.
Yeah, I do all the mine stuff. She does all the fishing. So we're almost through year 1. We are on fall. So if we can finish it before the end, I'll consider that definitely a win.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Well, Joe, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing with us your journey so far. And listener, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, let us know. You can always email us at catholicgamerspod@gmail.com. Like, subscribe, follow whatever podcast app you listen to our podcast through. Whatever it is, to sign up for the next update of whenever we send out a next episode. We usually send up or put up episodes every week on Friday, so feel free to look there. Also, let others know that this podcast exists. We are trying to grow this community so we can, bring this information to you and provide a entertaining source of information about video games or how one engages through a Catholic faith and through the Catholic lens. Like I said, I am James, your host. That was Joe with me today.
What's up, guys?
Thank you for listening, and God bless.
God bless all of you. Have a great night. Or day, or whatever you're doing. Bye.
Bye.